Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and this one we're kind of getting a couple of bits of sort of admin, I suppose, out of the way. Um, so, you're not going to see many videos from me for a little while. Partly that's because I'm having to argue with my ISP, and I don't really have the time to invest in that, and a chunk of that is because, the other reason, it looks like we have a completion date for our move, potentially, which would be in March. And at the time of recording this, it is the 27th of February. So we're trying to sort of gear up to start getting things moved. And yeah, then there are other things that are floating around, but they're sort of the big things from our perspective, and that big thing that's happening in the next month or so. Um, so if you don't see any videos from me in a little while, don't stress. It doesn't mean that we've ceased to exist or something. It just means we're off getting some other bits and bobs sorted out. Those of you who've been with us a while, been with me a while, may notice or may remember that I've moved a few times. In fact, since I started putting videos on YouTube, which I think was back in 2013, if memory serves, we have moved once, twice, thrice, four. This will be the fifth move, so we're averaging a move about every year and a half, which is a little bit depressing. Year and 3/4, something like that. Between a year and 2 years on average. Now, hopefully, this will be the final move in a while, and by a while, I mean the foreseeable future. So we're moving into a place that's large enough for a family, 4 bedrooms, and like 3 of those bedrooms are pretty nicely sized. Good amount of living space and all that jazz. The only downside is that the place needs a little bit of TLC. But of course, the upside of that is we're getting it somewhat cheaper than you would typically buy such a large property for, in this or frankly any other area of the UK. So, hurrah. Yeah, so I just wanted to let people know. Now, on to something slightly different. I'm currently unable to record games because of, let's say, ISP issues, which I could sort out if I were to invest lots of time, but I don't have the time because we're trying to sort out moving, and anyway, hopefully you kind of see where I'm going with that. So what I thought I'd do instead is give you guys a little update on my sort of New Year's resolution to try and get some hobby stuff done. It's been an interesting couple of months. So, as I expected, I have not had time to play video games at all. It's weird. When you're in your 20s, it's fine, or you're a teenager or something, it's fine, you got all the time in the world, and then you get married, and then you have a family, and then suddenly all that time you've got is just flushing down the toilet, and even if you wanted to play games, you're just so tired so much of the time. And wait, what? What? Yeah, all my time is being flushed down the toilet. Bye. Hi, Loki. Um, love you too. But no, it just means I don't have anywhere near as much free time. And like I say, that free time I have, I'm just tired, or it's at a time of day when I don't want to be doing something that's gonna suck my brain up and make it difficult for me to sleep. So anything I can do that's more relaxing, like reading or painting or anything along those lines, is preferable. So video games have been out of the question, so we haven't really done anything on that note. I have managed to put out 2 videos in January, 2 videos in February. This will be the second, assuming I actually managed to get it out in February. Not as many as I'd wanted to do, but not a terrible state of affairs. Nowhere near as many as I was doing if you go back to like 2016 or something, but it is what it is. Um, So, yeah, go figure. With regard to book reading, like, we've read some books. I've read books. That's good. We got back into Pratchett. So, I probably never mentioned this before, but I'm a big Terry Pratchett fan. Have been for years. But had that problem that... So, when I was a teenager growing up, I always used to see finishing the Discworld series, which for those who don't know... So, for anyone who's not aware, and you've been living under a rock for the last 30 years, Terry Pratchett was a British fantasy... I'll call him a fantasy author because it's easier. But his books tend to lean quite heavily into the satirical. Um, his main series, and the one he's most well known for, not the only, but main series is a series of books called The Discworld. They're sort of tongue-in-cheek fantasy satire, which, now that I say it out loud, sounds like a kind of weird genre, but whatever. Um, go figure. Right, so what I've found is the earlier books tended to be a bit more parodying the fantasy genre. You know, sort of taking tropes from things like Lord of the Rings and making them larger than life. But the latter books tend to be more parodying the world around us, and sometimes not even parodying. Sometimes it's kind of close to the knuckle, if we're honest. But yeah. Anyway, so I have enjoyed them for years. Yeah, so recently we've been reading things like Nightwatch and Thud and whatnot. So I've enjoyed them for years, but I stopped reading them because I'd always seen it as a goal to, catch, because Pratchett's has been a very prolific writer, catch up with his writing of the books, which I was doing. He was churning out like 3 books a year, which for an author's a lot, let's be honest, something like that. But I was managing to catch up, and for those who don't know, then he died. um, and for me, that was kind of like weird, because then there's an end to the series, and that was a bit of a downer. But I got back into them lately, and managed to convince Loki to read them along with. She's not a fan of the earlier books. I think she found especially some of the wizards just a bit goofy, and kind of insubstantial, I suppose. But especially the later books she's been enjoying. So we've been reading a lot of Pratchett, but they're from the library, so they don't really count for these purposes. That was a long-winded way of not saying a great deal of much, wasn't it? But hey, I get to wax lyrical about Pratchett, so that's fine. So that's a really long roundabout the house's way of saying I haven't read any books that actually count, or not finished any that count for these purposes. With regard to models, sorry? Oh yeah, but that wasn't one of my goals. I didn't set a New Year's resolution to lose weight. I mean, I have, but that wasn't the idea. It's just sort of happily ticked along in the background. So in terms of painting stuff, like while I've been rabbiting on, you've seen a sequence of images in the background showing some of what I've been painting. Hurrah! Managed to get some stuff painted. It's great. You may have noticed, by the way, that at the time I took these pictures, I had neglected the eyes on some of these guys. Which bugs me now that I've noticed. It's since been rectified, but I just haven't had time to retake the pictures. Partly because the lamp I used to light these has died, essentially. And trying to take pictures in the northwest of England, in the sort of wintry months, light is not your friend. It's just not around very much. And trying to do it without a lamp's been a nightmare. And this is sort of my first go at trying to photograph stuff like this, and, it's not too bad. I'm sure I'll get better with time, but it's not too bad. But anyway, so these 5 are 5 Death Guard that I painted in January. I've also painted a bunch of Dark Angels. Like, this is all 40k for anyone who's not aware. Or at least the stuff that I have painted thus far has been a bunch of 40k. So I've actually, managed to get a bunch of that done. Just quickly, the models you're seeing in the background, because I'm trying to get back into sort of painting miniatures and whatnot, and actually put some time and effort into making them look not terrible, as opposed to 12-year-old me, who was like, let's just vomit some paint on a piece of plastic, and hey, that'll be fine, right? And we'll just put it on a table, and play some games. I've actually, been trying to put some effort in and experiment with some different techniques. So these guys, for instance, the bases was a bit of an experiment, not a particularly successful one, but a bit of an experiment using crackle paint. And I was experimenting with a few techniques on the models themselves. So this was kind of some of my early attempts to actually get some half decent fabric effects going. And started doing sort of some highlighting on some of the weapon casings and things like that here or there. It doesn't show up particularly well in these pictures. That might be more to do with my photography than anything else, but there we go. I would show some of the sort of Dark Angel pictures as well, but like I said, my lamp died. Hopefully, as we get a bit more sunshine throughout the spring, I'll be able to take some more pickies, maybe pick up a new lamp and whatnot. But actually, of these 5 models, so we got, as you see them cycle through, there's one that's sort of holding a halberd in one hand that's converted from an old metal Grey Knight. Because it was a metal model, it's been a pain in the backside to convert, but sort of managed to make it work. And I take a kind of pleasure in converting Loyalist models into Chaos. It just makes me smile. That's that guy. We've then got a chap who Loyalist legs and body, and then I've got picked up some Death Guard. That's what these guys are, Death Guard. Picked up some Death Guard weapons like this. So he's got this sort of flail. You'll see him in a minute. 2-handed flail. He's the one where the eyes being absent. That guy, the most obvious. Then there's one chap who's got an axe in one hand, and his left hand I've swapped out the pistol that was there for a knife, so just a simple weapon swap, which has gone alright. And then the last 2 guys, that chap with the helmet and the mace, and then the guy who's got the armoured gauntlet and the pistol. They are both just, as they come, models out of the Dark Vengeance starter set that I've painted in Death Guard colours. And overall, I think they've come out alright, to be fair. So those last 2, well, there's the 5 together. They're the 2 that you see on the right in that picture. So there's the guy with the gauntlet and the pistol. And there's the guy with the mace and the helmet. So I think overall they've come out alright. But, trying to get better at it, and it means I've actually got some stuff painted. I did buy a model, though. I have to probably mention that. He's not a GW model. The idea is he's going to be in a 40k army, but it's actually a 3D printed resin affair that will be a sort of floaty, demonic, droney thing. Haven't painted it up yet, but I did buy it, so that counts against me. And when you total all that up, I'm actually, because I was doing this as sort of a golf score, for those who aren't aware, I was actually sort of 27 under par, so that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. The point is, I've managed to kind of dent my way into the pile of grey and white metal and plastic and the pile of shame, thank you. We're making progress. Sorry? I'm welcome, I'm sure I am. So we're making progress through these guys, which was the whole point of that in the first place. So, hurrah. So there we go. Yeah, not going to have any videos for a little bit. It is what it is. But hopefully, once we get the internet set up in the new place, I'll be able to juggle actually having some spare time, along with toddler and work and decorating a big old house. That's gonna be fun. Go figure. Anyway, I hope you guys are all doing alright. I hope 2022 isn't treating you too badly. Been a bit of a mixed blessing for us so far, but, we'll just run with it. We'll take it. And, I hope you guys are doing okay. Loved ones safe and all that jazz. Especially given current events. But I'll leave that there. And either way, enjoy yourselves, and I'll catch you guys in another one. Ciao, ciao.